Hey YouTube, how's it going today? A while back I did a review of this dash cam on the channel. This one's commonly referred to as the B40 or the A118. We put this on that video. We unboxed it and I put it in my wife's car. At the time that was a Honda Accord Coupe, and it has served her very well. She had a long commute and recorded a few things of interest during those years. Luckily, none of it was involving her in an accident, but we saw other accidents and other wacky things online, bad drivers and things. So that was in a Honda Accord. She turned out to sell that car and got a electric Fiat, leased it. So I installed that into that car. That car had a USB plug in the glove box, so I modified the power cord, the 12 volt lighter adapter, to just work right off of that USB port in the glove box. So for that one, I cut off the 12 volt and just soldered the red and black together, plugged that into that USB, and ran it up the A pillar up to the dash cam location by the mirror. So the lease came up on that car, so I turned it in, and now have a hybrid, the Lexus hybrid. Basically, the guts are probably like a Prius, but a little bit nicer trim, being a Lexus. So what I want to do now is transfer this camera into that car, and my thought this time, since there's no built-in USB port in the glove box, what I want to try to do is look for a 12 volt switched 12 volt source up near the map light area, and see if I can grab power off of that and just shorten up the wire considerably. Just have something sticking down from the rear view mirror area. Pardon my cat. So to accomplish that, I've started with some of these little 5 volt. Well, not even 5 volt. They're adjustable. It's a DC to DC converter. So let me zoom in on that a little bit. Alright, so I picked up a bunch of these on Banggood, and they're relatively cheap. I think I got a pack of 5 for $3.50 or so. I got them just so I could. They only weigh 1 gram, so I figured if I need to convert whatever battery pack voltage down to something around 3 or 5 volts, this would be what I would use for that. Sorry. So I figured I would take one of these and use it in the car. Find a 12 volt source that's switched. There's a little map light in the overhead console that comes on. As far as I've seen, it only comes on when the car is on. So I will take this multimeter and verify that once I pull the console down. So I've taken one of these and wired it in, so I will just tap into a 12 volt source that I can find in the back of the harness. There may already be a plug up there that's not used. I would hope that Lexus, Toyota would simply run the same wiring harness in every car, and then for the different trim levels they would either plug in the various upgrades or not. But to have completely different wiring harnesses in cars that don't have such and such a trim package, I would hope that would not be efficient, and they would just run the same wiring harness in every car. So anyway, this will be our 12 volt in on this side. You can see it's got the little screw there for adjustment, and dial that down. I've already dialed this one down to get 5 volts out. I'll bring up the Banggood listing that I purchased these off of, get the specs. So yeah, currently they're 5 for $3.50. Input voltage is listed as between 4.75 up to 23 volts on the input side here, and your output side with the adjustment of the pot would give you, it says somewhere between 1 and 17. A couple of the reviews on these have said that if your input voltage is not steady, then your output voltage will also reflect any changes. So In this case, I've already dialed it up to 5 volts output, but if my input voltage varied significantly from the 12 volts, then my output voltage could also vary significantly, in which case the camera will just stop working. That's fine. I doubt it's going to blow the camera. It's powered off the USB, so it's expecting around 5 volts, but I think it would just stop working, not pop if I gave it a little too much. Yeah, so I'll hook this up to my power supply here on the bench and show you how the adjustment worked, and then later try to roll in some footage of getting this installed in the car. Okay, got my power supply turned on there with my little squid cable coming out, hooked up here to the input wires on this guy. And you know, I didn't really show, but these are incredibly small. I mean, there it is on my thumbnail. So they're really small. They only weigh 1 gram, so perfect for multi-rotors. So anyway, let's get this back up there so you can see right now. Like I said, I already have it dialed up for 5 volts. Let me show you the input side. So you can see it's getting 12.5 coming in, and our output voltage right now is at 5.03, and that's about as tight as I can get it. But I'm going to hold these on here and adjust that little dial, and you can see what happens there. So it looks like lowest you can turn it down to would be about 0.5 volts, and it'll actually go the other way as well, I believe. Let me do it slowly here. So again, we're putting in 12.5. Let's see if it'll go above input voltage. Apparently it does not. Let me turn it back down to as close to 5 volts as I can get. There we go, right back to where it was. Alright, and we'll make sure that that's like repeatable. Yeah, keeps coming back to that. So what I'll do at the end here is I will I'm going to dab this little adjustment pot screw with some hot glue, hopefully keep it from rotating at all due to road vibration as we drive down the road. I'm going to chop off the end of this USB cable that goes to the camera. Probably give it about 8 or 9 inches worth of cable to come out from under the headliner, and just solder the power lead part over here to the output side, and then cover that in shrink wrap so it won't be touching any metal inside the up inside the headliner or the sunglass holder lamps kind of area, the cover that comes off of there. Just insulate it, make sure it's not touching anything. It does not get very warm, so we should be good with the thermals there. So I'll show you the finished product when it's all shrunk up and with this wire attached, and then move on to getting it installed in the car. Okay, here's the moment of truth. Got it plugged in back to my power supply. USB soldered in. I'm going to just check it for operation before I shrink it. I already glued the potentiometer down, so hopefully that won't change. Turn on the power supply. Oh yeah, there we go. And it's working. Sweet. Alright, so I'll shrink this up for protection, and then next step will be get it installed in the car. If I can find a switch to 12 volt source up there in the headliner somewhere. Alright, so I'm in the car now and got to figure out how to gain access to this overhead console. Started prying around with the pry tool and found out that these right here, sorry about the exposure, but the lights are on right there. These little things here just pop right out, so you basically push the light in. It's on a little bit of a pivot there. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, you push those in, and then you can get your finger under there and pull it out. We'll do this one right here. There you go. So you do have a left and right side. And then up in here, there's a connector right there. So my hopes for finding something that will give me switched 12 volt power up here is looking pretty good. I mean, right here is the microphone for the Bluetooth system. It's got some sort of like, sorry about the lighting there, but it's got some sort of like locator SOS thing, you know, dome light. So I should be able to find 12 volt up here somewhere. So you got pins there, and then it looks like right there, maybe this whole overhead console is pushed in at 4 points. So hopefully we'll have another one over here. Let's see. Yeah, looks like it's right up in here. Another suspension point. So give those a tug and see if this thing comes down to where I can maybe access something off of that, or something further down in there. So I just pulled the rocking map light switch covers off. You know, it's got the diffuser and then the switch. It's going to be hard to see with the backlight, but it was just being held on. You can see there's a little, see that little plastic catch on the far end over here? That catches right up in here. So you just kind of bend this piece of plastic back that way towards the rear, and then this thing will drop lower like that, and then it just has these two little post catchers, like built-in hinges, and those just clicked on right there. So that's how you take that down, because you probably would want to eventually change this light bulb maybe to an LED or something. So pulled those off of both sides, and then I can see a little black plastic catch which is holding on this whole black piece right here. So we'll see what's under there next. Okay, well, I got the black plastic cover off the light there. Yeah, I know. Sorry, it's hard to see that. It really didn't do me any favors. There's no screws or other clips hiding under there that I can see. So I'm just going to end up putting it back on. I made a silly little pry hook to just pull on those little latches right there, which were sticking. They were sticking right here on each side. But like I said, that didn't really help me out. So I'm going to put it back and keep looking at how to get this whole console out of here. Alright, finally getting this thing out. There were no screws or anything to hold it in. I was sort of on the right track thinking there were posts popping into some holes or something. But basically, from reading on some other forums and looking on eBay for used parts, there's 4 little rubber or hard plastic little, they look like little mushrooms, and they pop into 4 holes. And they're basically kind of in this area here, here, and then halfway back or so, like approximately here and here. And what I read said you just got to yank really hard, and I was scared to break it, but it finally started making popping noises and it's come down. So now it's time to start looking into that wiring plug there and see if we can get a switch 12 volt source. Here's what it looks on the top side. So those 4 red circular things are the little clips that pop into these holes up in here, and you just got to yank them down. So if I can get this to work, I'm gonna run that USB cord right at the little part there between the headliner and the windshield, and it'll end up coming down right up in there. So after a bunch of trial and error, probing each of these pin locations, I finally found some that look like will work for me. So over here, this white wire with the black tracer, which would probably be pin location 15 on this thing, that's going to be the ground. And then the green wire next to the yellow, which would be pin 8 as I'm counting them. The black one on the right, I'm counting that as number 1. So the white would be 2, the red is 3, and so forth. So the green one next to the yellow comes out as pin 8. And then the blue one would be 9, the second yellow is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and so on. So you go up there to the white wire with the black tracer, that comes out as 15. So anyway, between the white wire with the black tracer as ground and the green wire, number 8, next to the yellow, that one shows 12.7 when the car is just on and not running, and it goes up to 14.8 when the car is running. This one's a hybrid, so things might be a little different in here. Not exactly what I'm used to. So I cut the shrink off of the, or I cut a little access in the shrink wrap on the DC-DC voltage regulator, so that I can dial it back down to a good close to 5 volts when the input voltage has gone up to 14.8. So that should still work for us here. So anyway, I'm going to try to, I've cut the, sorry about that, it's hard to see here. There we go, it's a little better. I cut the harness back a little bit, the wrapping and everything, and trying to get as much slack on those as I can so I can tap into them and then just run the wire right out the front. Alright, so we're moving on with the install here. Had to get these wires are really small wires here. I had some of the like the folding T-taps, but those just weren't, they were still too large. I thought I had the smallest size that I could get, but they were still too large to actually bite through the jacket on this wire, so it took an extra day. But I went and got some of these posi taps, and these are the smallest size posi tap that they make. Oops, sorry. Here's what they look like in the package from posi tap. So these would be for 20 to 22 gauge wire. They weren't cheap, but I mean they're the perfect thing for how this works. So let me show you. I got one right here. So the gray part comes off. If I can do this with one hand. So the gray part comes off of here, and it has it's like a threaded cap, and it has a slot in it. Okay, you see that slot there? So your wire, focus, there you go, your wire is going to slip into that slot, and then you screw it back into the main capsule, and you'll notice that the capsule has a sharp point to it. So that's going to pierce the jacket of your wire. You tighten that down, and it's not supposed to break the wire, it's just going to pierce the jacket and touch the copper wire inside. And then the other side of this thing, let's see if I can get lucky twice here. Oh, looks like I do. So the other side of this is you feed through the wire that you're trying to tap into. So it's just a straight little hole, but it might have kind of like a tightening bushing or something inside there. Basically, you end up taking your stripped wire. I probably stripped too much, but it says about 3/8 of an inch is what they're telling you. But anyway, so you strip your wire, feed it through this little dude, okay, and then screw it into the other end of the capsule. So the one end of the capsule has the point, which is going into the wire you're trying to tap from, and the other side, those loose, whoa, don't want to lose these small parts in here. The loose wires will kind of just smash all around the butt end here, and transfer your power that way. So that's what I've done now. These work fine. So the one weird thing about this particular car, I don't know if I kept searching and searching somewhere, I would find a different pair of wires that would provide me always constant 12 volts. But these pair here, the white with the black stripe is the ground, and this green one back here that it's hard to see, but it's the green one that comes next to that yellow. You got the coming from right to left, you got that yellow and then a green and then a blue. Well, that green one in the middle there, which I fed through to the other side for my slack, that pair right there, when the car is running, is giving me like 14.5. So what I ended up doing is turning down the voltage a little bit on my buck converter here, or whatever you want to call that, voltage regulator. I went in the house and turned it down to give me about 4.5 volts output when I'm giving it a 12 volt input, and I came out here to try it to make sure that when I'm feeding it about 14.5 input, that the output is about 5 volts and it's gonna power up my camera. It might be a little bit over 5 volts. I don't think I'm gonna fry the camera though. So anyway, we're getting real close. So the black wire will go in here and the red wire would go in there, and I'll plug in that USB and give it a try. Alright, so before I get everything tucked away and finalized, I'm just going to try it out here. I got the wires fed through and the back end of those capsules tightened up. Come down to my little voltage regulator doohickey again. Sorry for the focus, but it's picking up the background anyway. So I just have it dangling right here, and we'll go ahead and turn on the car. Wait for the engine to start.
Safety Connect failure detected. Please contact your dealer.
I get that warning because I've got the whatever they call it, Lexus Link or whatever. It's part of the overhead console, and it's disconnected at the moment. So, anywho, this is going to be fun with one hand. Let's see if I can get this to work. Oh, it's backwards. Here we go. Ready, set. Sorry everybody, I'm trying to do this with just these fingers, as you see here. Oh, almost got it. Oh, it's working. Yeah. Works. And it sounds like the engine died, but that's just because I didn't move. This is a hybrid, so it stops running the engine. But as you can see, it says ready. I could back up on electric power right now. Sweet. So that's working. Terrific. Now I can just go in the house, put some shrink wrap back on that guy for safety, and then pass that USB cord right out the front of the headliner and go about sticking the camera right on there. Alright, everything's back in business. Got the console back in there. Here's here's that thing I was talking about. Safety Connect SOS. I don't know. It's like a low-key type of low jack type thing. But anyway, now we're back in the car. Everything's plugged in. If I put on the open door lights, you know, that works. So let me go ahead and turn the car on. Well, we should avoid that security warning. And there's my USB cable sticking right out there, dropping right down behind there. Green light. Safety Connect is good, so everything's good to go. So now I'll just I'm gonna go out into the street before, try to get a good idea where I'm gonna mount the camera. Have to you know, stick it on this dotted area with the lens coming out just below. Got stuff on the wall there. Okay, there's some clear wall. So the lens of the camera I have to have just below the edge of the dotted stuff there, so you don't always get dots in the shot. All right, this might be kind of hard to see with the sunlight coming out so strongly through the windshield, but I wanted to, you know, line it up out here in the street, not shooting at the garage wall, just to make sure I didn't get any of the dotted section in the view of the camera. And I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, I know the glare is really bad, but it's on there and it powers up, key on, key off, so all done. And then, you know, that'll just kind of be hiding behind the mirror. From the driver's seat, you don't even see it. So anyway, thanks for watching all this. This was just the third car that this camera has been into. First one was a Honda Accord Coupe, like a 06, I think, 2006. Next it went into a Fiat 500 electric, and now we're in a Lexus CT200 hybrid. Good little camera, and I like this install best of all because I didn't have to run wires from under the dash up the A-pillar over across and to the camera. It's just barely sticking out the headliner there. Alright, well, if you have any questions about how this was done, every car is going to be a little different, but more than likely you have a light or a console up here that you can tap into, so similar principles will apply. But if you have any questions about this, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll do my best to give you an answer to your question. Thank you for watching. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want to see some other stuff like this. Thanks a lot.